Hello, Year 10. So today we are going to do a recorded lesson on the Bible. So this is on the structure of the Bible. So just a little starter to get us started, which is what can you remember? So you've been given 5 picture clues. Number 1 is the keys to the kingdom of heaven. Number 2, you've got Latin to German to English. Number 3, you've got some different varieties of crisps. Number 4, you've got a printer. And number 5, you've got Henry VIII. So this all links to a topic we did in year 7. So what can you remember about these different picture clues? And the teacher can pause this right here, so you've got some time to kind of get some ideas down in the back of your books. Okay, so let's see what some of you have got. So hopefully for the keys to the kingdom of heaven, you have got that this is a reminder that Jesus gave to Peter these keys to the kingdom of heaven. And this was a symbol, a metaphor of the authority of the Pope. And symbolizing that he and the Pope is God on earth. So that's what the symbolic nature of that is. And then you have got number 2, which is Latin to German to English. And this is to show that the Bible was translated from Latin to German. And that was done by Martin Luther, not Martin Luther King, completely different person. This is Martin Luther. And then it was translated from German to English by William Tyndale. Then you have got these crisps. So hopefully you can remember that this is the different denominations of Christianity. So you have got, well, obviously Christians, they've got one kind of common belief that Jesus is the Son of God. So crisps are all the same. Christians kind of all have that fundamental belief, but salt and vinegar aren't the same as cheese and onion. So there are different types of crisps, just like there's different types of Christians. You've got your Protestants, you've got your Catholics, you've got your Orthodox Christians. So there's different types of Christians, different denominations of Christianity. And number 4, this is when printing became available. So in around the 1500s, printing became available, and this meant that the richer people in society could afford to get their own printed version of the Bible. So when they read these words, they were listening to what the priest was saying, and they kind of realised that sometimes they were lying to them, and this led to them protesting, which created the Protestant church, because this is what led the Reformation. So protest. And then number 5, we've got Henry VIII. So Henry VIII brought the Reformation to England, and he wanted a divorce. So that led from the split to the Catholic Church in England, and that became the Protestant Church, which is the Church of England. So this is the Reformation in England. Okay, fantastic. So this is kind of the outline of what we're going to be looking at. These are our objectives. We are going to understand the historical development of the Bible, so how the Bible historically was put together. We are going to evaluate the divergent Christian beliefs about the content of the Bible. So what did other denominations of Christians believe about the Bible? Do they all read the same Bible? What's the difference? And we're going to understand the structure of the Bible. So firstly, we're going to look at the historical development of the Bible. And this leads us to the question, are all Bibles the same? So we're going to watch a short clip, and I will need you to make some notes in the back of your books, please. So I'm going to play this clip on here, and please will you make some notes.
The Bible, a book of books. Nowadays, the Bible is frequently printed as one book. But for more than 1,000 years, most people encountered the Bible as a library of multiple volumes or multiple scrolls. In light of this history, it's not so surprising that not all Bibles today contain exactly the same set of books. But if the Bible isn't always the same, then what do we mean when we talk about the Bible? The Bible is a collection. Specifically, it's the full collection of books that Jewish and Christian communities around the world have historically accepted as being uniquely authoritative. The Jewish Bible today is known as the Tanakh. It contains the Torah, the Nevi'im, and the Ketuvim. The Christian Bible contains the Old Testament and the New Testament. Each testament contains several smaller collections. The biggest difference between the Jewish Tanakh and the Christian Bible is the New Testament. Most Christian traditions today agree that the New Testament contains 27 books. By contrast, major Christian traditions disagree about how many books belong in the Old Testament.
So that is something that you really need to note down, that many Christians today disagree about how many books belong in the Old Testament. They're not really fussed about the New Testament, they all agree on that, but it's just the Old Testament.
The Protestant Old Testament matches the Jewish Tanakh in content, but some books are organized differently. The Roman Catholic Old Testament matches the Protestant Bible in organization, but the Catholic Old Testament contains more books.
So the Catholic Old Testament has got 7 extra books. So instead of the Protestant has the same kind of books as the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible. However, the Catholic Bible has 7 extra books on top of what the Hebrew Bible has.
Eastern Orthodox Christians have even more books in their Old Testaments. Why do different Christian traditions have the same New Testament, but disagree about the part of the Bible they share with Judaism? The answer is timing. Have you ever thought about how different books became part of the Bible? Each book went through at least 3 basic stages. First, it was composed. Second, it was circulated and used, first on a smaller scale and then more widely. In many cases, it was also collected together with related books. Lastly, all the books and smaller collections were confirmed as part of a closed canon. This happened when most communities who used these books officially agreed that no more books should be added to or subtracted from the overall collection. This process finalized the Bible of today. For the New Testament, this process took place between the 1st and 4th centuries. The Gospels and the Pauline epistles were used widely as collections from the 2nd century onward. Different communities used various other books for a few centuries longer. Official agreement was established in the late 300s. The divisions between today's major Christian traditions all occurred later. The overall process that produced the Jewish Tanakh was similar, but the timing was different. The Torah and prophets were well-established collections by the 2nd century BC. Different communities used various other books for a few centuries longer. During this period, Judaism was diverse. In the 1st century AD, Christianity was born as a variety of Judaism. After the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem, some varieties of Judaism died out, and Christianity gradually became a separate movement. The widespread Jewish agreement about the law and the prophets before the birth of Christianity explains why the differences between Christian Bibles in the Old Testament today are limited to a small percentage of books. The differences that remain were inherited before the Tanakh became the single official version of the Jewish Bible. Long ago, many communities through many centuries produced the Bibles we have today. The formation of this book is a testament to Jewish and Christian belief that God works through human history.
Okay, so let's have a look at the notes that we would have got from there. So, hopefully that you got down that different Christians have a different number of books within their Bible. So, Catholics have more books than Protestants in their Bible. To be exact, they have 7 extra books, so theirs is plus 7. Protestants have the same amount of books in their Old Testament as the Jewish people do in their Tanakh. So in their Hebrew Bible, they have the same amount as them. However, Catholics have the 7 extra than the Hebrew Bible, and we'll go on to why they do that later, why they have those extra books later. However, all Christians agree on the amount of books in the New Testament. So they're not fussed about the New Testament. It's the Old Testament where the disagreements are. So we're going to have a look at why these disagreements have happened. So we're going to be annotating this sheet here. So please will the teacher give this sheet out to the pupils. You'll see 3 different kind of pictures on, and these are 3 different events through history, and we're going to annotate each picture at a time. So the first one that we're going to have a look at is this one here, and this picture is from the Synod at Hippo in 393 and the Council of Carthage at 397. They're very close in dates, so we're just going to do it as this one picture here. So this is when the Bible was first canonized in the 4th century. So a group of people in the church got together and they wanted to kind of make the Christian Bible as official. They wanted it all translated. They wanted the New Testament and the Old Testament put together. And they wanted it translated into the language of the church at the time, which was Latin. So they looked at the books and they went, yes, we want the New Testament. So they ticked out the New Testament here and they all put that in. And then they looked at the Old Testament, and for a while there was a few disagreements. So there was a few disagreements between a man named Jerome and St. Augustine. St. Augustine wanted the extra books that were not in the Jewish Tanakh. So these were those 7 extra books, and Jerome did not. However, they kind of went along and they did put those extra books in. Augustine got his way, and those books went into the Bible. So this meant that the Bible was first canonized in the 4th century, and it came to 73 books in total. So they included those 7 extra books. So just a bit of information on those 7 extra books and why it's controversial. So when the first Jewish exile happened, so an exile is when people get kicked out of a country. So Jewish people got kicked out because of a war in 597 BC. So this is when they kind of were living in Israel, but because of a war, they all had to move to different countries. The Jewish people, who were now living in different countries, obviously wanted a copy of their holy book, but because they were settled now in different places, that wasn't the language of the time, and it wasn't the language that they were currently speaking. So they had to get their Bible, their Hebrew Bible, translated. So the people who translated it for them into Greek, they also included these extra books, and those were those 7 extra books. And this was not the traditional Tanakh. So it got these 7 extra books. When they then moved back a few years later to Jerusalem, they then brought that Bible back with them. So that means that 500 years later, when Jesus was living there, when Jesus was living there, he could have possibly knew of the Septuagint Bible, these extra books. So the Septuagint Bible is the Hebrew Bible plus those 7 extra books. So here you've got your kind of books that you are already familiar with, such as Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. Those are your kind of books that are normally in your Tanakh. I don't know why I'm trying to write. That says Tanakh there, kind of. No, it really doesn't. And then the underlined books are the extra books, the Septuagint books that were also translated and put in. We think that Jesus could have known about these books. We kind of think that he might have had an idea of them, because when they moved back, he was living there about 600 years later, and it's possible he knew of them too. So that's where those books came from. So just to kind of see what you've got down, if you haven't got any notes down already, The Synod at Hippo in 393 and reaffirmed at the Council of Carthage, this is when the book was canonised. The Bible was canonised, which means they put the Bible together as authoritative from the church. This meant they accepted what book should be in the Old and the New Testament. The Old Testament had the same books as the Jewish Tanakh, plus those few extra that came from when the Jewish people were exiled from Israel. Altogether, the church accepted that the Bible had 73 books. So the teacher could pause this here so you can just write down and get up to speed with where we are. Okay, excellent. So we're going to move on now to our second picture here, which is in 1534. So in 1534, you have got Martin Luther. And this is when Martin Luther translated the Bible from Latin to German. And when he translated from Latin to German, he looked at those extra books and he didn't like them. He didn't think that these books were inspired by God. He just thought they were different and they didn't match the other books that were traditionally in the Hebrew Bible. So Luther removed the 7 books that Catholics had in their Bible. He put that these 7 books in a different section. So not only official canon section, but he put it in a section called the Apocrypha, which actually means secret and hidden. So the Catholic Bible before had 73 books, and now he took them away and gave the Bible 66 books. And this is because, and this is a quote from Luther, he said that they are not considered equal to the Holy Scriptures, because he said that these books weren't inspired by God, but he said that they were useful and good to read. So that's why he put them in a section called the Apocrypha. Okay, so here's my notes from it. In 1534, Martin Luther translated the Bible from Latin to German. When he did, he left out the texts that were different to the Jewish Tanakh. He said that these books were not inspired by God, but were useful and good to read. So he put them in a section called the Apocrypha, which meant hidden. So the teacher can again pause this here and people can get up to speed. Okay, excellent. So we're now going on to our third picture. So the third picture is from quite a few years later, well, about 10 years later, 11 years later. And this is when the Catholics started a council. So we're looking at this picture now. And obviously, Catholics are quite angry. They're a bit mad because this guy's come along with his problems with the Catholic Church and actually edited their Bible. So they're fuming. They're really angry about it. So the Council of Trent took place, and this was a council with the Pope at the time and the bishops, and this was in 1545, and discussed the changes that the Reformation had made. And what they did is they re-added those books. They were not happy with what Luther did, and they rejected what he said, and the 7 books were added back to the Catholic Church in 1545 at the Council of Trent. So again, the Catholics had 66 plus 7 books, so 73 books in total. This became known as the Deuterocanonical Bible. This word sounds hideous, but actually it's not too bad. So Deutero, which means 2, and canonical is the Bible. So it is basically the second edition of the Bible because it was re-edited. So Deuterocanonical just relates to this kind of second edition of the Bible, the re-adding of those 7 books. So just to get you back up to speed, in 1545 at the Council of Trent, the Catholic Church called a council to discuss what happened at the Reformation. They were really angry with what the Protestants were doing. So they rejected the change that Luther had made to the Bible, and they re-added the 7 books Luther took out. This Bible then became known as the Deuterocanonical Bible. So here, I'll pause this if you like to get people up to speed. Okay, And just a timeline here as well, just to make things clearer as well. So at the Synod at Hippo and Synod at Carthage. So this is when the Bible was confirmed, contained the 77 books. And then here, the Catholic canon was reaffirmed. So they kind of like double checked it here. It kind of had to go through the council. So that's when they had, by the way, it's not 77, it's 73. Ignore that. I don't know why it's saying that. 73. No, wrong. Because it's only plus 7. So they had the 73 books. Then it went to the Reformation. So the Reformation this is when Martin Luther translated the Bible from Latin to German. And when he did, he looked at it and he didn't like that they had these books that weren't in the Hebrew Tanakh and took away 7 of those books. Catholics were fuming about that and re-added those books in 1545 at the Council of Trent. And this then became known as the Deuterocanonical Bible. So, when we're looking at if all Bibles are the same, they're definitely not, are they? Because Catholics have the 66 plus 7 books. They have 73 books in total, which is the Deuterocanonical Bible. And the Protestants only have 66 books because they took them away at the Reformation. So I hope this has cleared that up for you. So now we've looked at the historical development of the Bible, we are now going to evaluate the divergent Christian beliefs about the content of the Bible. And I thought that the best way to do this is with a D question that I've already written for you. So you don't need to worry about writing it. I've already written for you. But what I would like you to do is deconstruct it. So the statement is the Deuterocanonical books should be in all Bibles. So just to unpack that statement for you, it's saying that those 7 extra books should be in all Bibles. So first of all, and you can do this as a class if you wish, or you can do it on your own, read the D question model answer. So the D question model answer is here. So at the bottom, there is a glossary to help you with some of those words. So words such as canonical, deuterocanonical and Septuagint Bible, there's a glossary at the bottom for you. Then I would like you to do is highlight and underline the different chains of reasoning. So highlight and underline where the arguments to agree and disagree are, and then the strong, the valid arguments, and the weak, the invalid arguments, and also the counter arguments. So make sure you do that. And then the third thing I want you to do is to complete the table. So I've actually been quite nice to you because I'm not there with you. I thought I'll be kinder, and I've given you a word as a word fill. So when you go through it, it's easier for you to kind of fill in the answers, and we'll go through them shortly. The challenge, so if you finish all that faster than others, can you add any extra appraisal? So can you add any other reasons why these arguments may be strong or weak, or any other reasons why someone may agree or disagree with the statement? So you can pause this right here. Oh, there's the glossary there again. You can pause this here while students get along with it, and then we'll go through the table. So we're now going to go through the table. So hopefully you filled that in okay. So firstly, someone could agree with the statement that Deuterocanonical books should be in all Bibles because Jesus was likely to have used the Septuagint Bible. This is the Greek translation of the Old Testament which contained the Deuterocanonical text. Some may say that this is a weak argument, as Jesus never spoke about or referenced the Deuterocanonical books, so we cannot be sure he did use the added books. However, a counter-argument to this is that Jesus didn't reference all the Old Testament scripture anyway, so just because he didn't reference the extra books, he didn't reference every single book in the Old Testament, so we can't be too sure of that. Someone may disagree because the Deuterocanonical books are not included in the Hebrew Bible today, the Tanakh. This is a strong argument because if the books weren't included in the Hebrew Bible, the teachings can't hold much significance of the Jewish faith and consequently to the life at the time of Jesus. A second reason why someone may agree is that in the Deuterocanonical books, it contains important teachings for Catholics, such as purgatory. This is a weak argument because Protestants do not believe in purgatory, and therefore this point has no significant value to them. So what Protestants won't care about using the Deuterocanonical books as they don't believe in purgatory. And a counter argument to this is that some of the teaching of the Deuterocanonical Bible goes against basic principles of Christianity. So, for example, paying for sins to be forgiven. A disagree to the statement is that Martin Luther did not include them in the Bible when he translated it from Latin to German. He said that they were not significant as of the rest of the scriptures. They are not considered equal to the Holy Scriptures, but are useful and good to read. And this is a weak argument, as Catholics would say that all scripture is inspired by God, and this is from 2 Timothy. Another reason to agree with the statement is that the Deuterocanonical books were deemed canonical in the original Bible by the Church in the 4th century at the Synod of Hippo and the Council of Carthage. This is a strong argument, as Catholics believe the Pope is infallible, and therefore the act of including the books is without error. And a counter-argument to this is, why do Protestants care? Protestants do not follow the teaching of the Pope, and therefore they do not need to include them in their own canon. Another reason to disagree is the Deuterocanonical books contain teachings that goes against basic principles of Christianity, for example, paying for sins to be forgiven. This is a strong argument, as it goes against fundamental Catholic teachings, as salvation is only available through the sacraments. You cannot buy it. This is a weak argument, as Catholics believe that the scripture should be read in context with the whole Bible and in line with the Catholic teachings. And that, if you remember, is actually a quote from the Catechism of when we looked at that last lesson. We looked at the Catholic interpretation of the Bible, and it said that you've got to understand the Bible within unity of the whole scripture. Okay, so I hope you got that okay. It's really difficult, so if you did struggle with it, do not worry, and when I'm back in school, we can go over it together. So, that is not what I'm looking for. So now we've done that, the only thing we've got left to do is to understand the structure of the Bible. So, what type of writing is in the Bible? So again, we did actually something similar to this in year 7. You remember that we've got law in the Bible. We have history in the Bible. We have got prophecies in the Bible. You've got a sheet here. So what I would like you to do now is try and fill this sheet out. What is the books of law? What is the books of history? And what are these books about? And then to try and give some examples to these books here. So I'll help you with the first one. We'll see if you can see it anyway. So the law is the teachings that were given from God to Moses, and these are commands from God. An example of a book is Exodus. Okay, so just go through this and then we'll have a look at these later. Okay, so you can pause this video. Okay, so hopefully you've gone through that okay, and I'll just kind of go through with you now. So law is the 613 commandments revealed to Moses. So an example of this is Exodus. So that's where you have the Ten Commandments. History, so the history of the Jewish people. So for example, that is also Exodus 2, but you could also say Genesis, as that's when they had the famine. You could also say Numbers, as it's when they were Numbers, as that's when they were traveling through the wilderness. Then you've got prophets, so these are prophecies and messages from God, and they're like telling them about this king that's going to come in the future. So how I remember those are all the ayahs. So anyone that is like Isaiah, Jeremiah, Zechariah, they're all the prophets. Jeremiah, yes. They're all the prophets. And then writings. These are the poetic and wisdom writings who tell stories about the nature of God. These are kind of anything in the Old Testament that doesn't really fit into a book of law, history, or prophets. So these are such things as Job. You have got Psalms, Song of Songs, Songs of Songs, Songs of Songs, Song of Songs. You have got Ruth and Esther. They're all in there. Even though probably some of them should be in prophets, e.g. Ruth, because she's a woman, she probably had to go in writings. Anyway, so next we're going to have a look at the New Testament. So the Gospels. The Gospels are the most important part of the scripture. So I don't care kind of how you show this, as long as it stands out. I'm going to put a big heart around it, because the Gospels are actually the heart of all the scriptures. This is because they are teachings of Jesus. They tell the story of Jesus, who is our Messiah. So because of that, they are the heart of all the scriptures. So all scriptures are inspired by God, but this one here is the love. That is the heart of the scriptures. So examples from that, you have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. So just Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then you have got letters. So these are the letters that were sent to people by St. Paul at a time when people were being persecuted for their faith. So, for example, you've got St. Paul's letters to the Corinthians and the letters to the Romans. Ignore Revelation, that's not on your sheet, but actually all Revelation is about is what's going to happen in the life of the world to come. It really does link to eschatology. It's a book that describes the end of the world, and your example, if you do want to write that down, is actually the book of Revelation. It's not that imaginative for the name. So now we've actually completed all of our learning objectives. So if you do have time, I've got a B question for you here. So explain 2 types of literature inside the Bible. So when you need to do this question, remember that you need to do your point and then you need to explain it. You need to do your point, you need to explain it. It is only worth 4 marks and is a B question, so you do not need to use a source of authority. So firstly, one type of literature is, and then you explain it. So you can pause this here while you have a go at it, and it should take you 4 minutes to complete. Okay, so this is an example of a model answer I have done. So one type of literature is the Gospels, which tell us about Jesus's life. So I would get my mark for here. This is important as Jesus is God incarnate, and therefore it tells us how we should live. Another type of literature in the Bible is history, which tells us about the historical, can't spell historical there, spelling error, that occurred at the time of the Bible. This is important as it allows us to understand the context the Bible was written in. So, for example, slavery. So I get my 4 marks altogether there. So I hope this has helped you, Year 10. I hope you can understand this a little bit better now. So you should now kind of get the gist more of the historical development of the Bible, and what different Christians believe, and why is it a good idea to have the different books in the Bible. So you should be able to evaluate if they should have these books or shouldn't have these books, and to understand the structure and the different types of books which are in the Bible.